Valerie here. It's Valerie Ling coming to you today with slight fire in my belly. I think it's potentially going to be a feisty live today. It's Valerie Ling here. Um, in my activewear because I have discovered that if I actually get dressed in activewear, there is a higher likelihood that I will actually follow through with my exercise at the point where I'm supposed to do my exercise. It kind of cuts out the getting changed into your activewear clothes. It's the simplify method to get exercise done. Anyway, a little bit of a fire in my belly today with this video podcast, depending on where you're catching me today. And that is my Apple Watch allowing a call to come in. Sorry, I'm going to need to do my live. So I was doing some journaling today. I've been reflecting on a bunch of things. Uh, I had this amazing opportunity where I signed up with the Simon Sinek people, the author of Why. Simon Sinek did not take my session. It was an associate, but nevertheless, that plus being in a think tank environment with some other people have really got me thinking about this thing about saying no. So this is a three-part video with three vignettes that hopefully one or all of it will have a relevant message to you. The first thing is about saying no. The first thing is about saying no. You will know that I will often say that you need to know what you're going to say yes to so that you can say no to. And in one of the think tank environments that I have been in, I loved that the person said, no is a complete sentence. No is a complete sentence. You don't have to justify, you don't have to rationalize, you don't have to explain. When you need to say no, you say no. So I've been journaling on my top priorities. What are the things that I definitely want to say yes to? And it was no surprise that family featured really highly there. Um, and a few other things were like, I definitely will say yes to this no matter what. This is the yes. Everything else is periphery. But the thing is, it takes a lot of courage to be able to say no then to other things, right? Because we worry about whether people are going to judge us, be disappointed, whether we're going to let people down. And one of the things I've been thinking about is that we always have a choice. We think that we have no choice and we've got to say yes to things. But the thing is, we do have choice and we can have the courage to actually basically say, based on the number of things that I've had a chance to reflect on and based on the priorities and, the top things that are meaningful, I'm actually going to say no to this. The second thing is that it takes courage and clarity to say not yet. Last night, my daughter randomly came to the room where my husband and I were at and said, Mum, I just had the most random thought. Once upon a time, I was in you. I was in you, Mom. I was in you. I'm like, well, yes, you were. I suppose. From her perspective, she has no reality of that. That's just a story she knows that she was in me, whereas I have the reality of carrying her for 9 months. 9 months. And so she had this random thought that, I was in you for 9 months. And I'm like, oh, yeah, baby. You were in me for 9 months. And boy, do I know it. That particular pregnancy, had some complications, and so for 9 months it was this gestation period actually of not really knowing if she was going to be okay, and thankfully she is. And it occurred to me this morning as I was journaling, there are some things that are really worth saying not yet to. Now this is where the metaphor of pregnancy doesn't quite work, because pregnancies don't always go according to plan. Sometimes babies will come out early and sometimes sad things happen during pregnancies. But this idea that there is there is wisdom when you have clarity, that there are some things that we want to say, no, I'm not going to rush it. Not yet. I'm not ready, or the project requires some time because it's worth it, right? So when you're caring, a pregnancy through to, you do want the pregnancy to go to its full term for all kinds of reasons. And the reality is probably only shared by you in totality. Not everybody is going to understand why you may not want to venture into project X, or why you're thinking decision Y needs to take a little bit of time. So, it really takes some clarity. We need to have that time and that space to bunker down and say, well, there are a few steps, right? Is there a change management process to look at? How is it going to impact everybody else? Do we have the resources right now to do that? Is it even something that we're sure that we want to go ahead on? And very often, I think, at least for me, I don't know about you, I'd love to hear what you think. Where everybody else seems like, oh, you have to do this. This like you've got to do this. This project means so much, or this decision must be made. I've got to know the answer today because I've got to give that other person that answer. And really, when you look at it, it's like, well, really? What would actually happen if we pushed the pause button and said not yet? Because surely things of worth, things that are of significance and consequence, surely those things take time. Surely they take time. I'd be willing to rush into a purchase of, my tolerance level has gone up a little bit. There's a certain numerical number that I would have no problems making a purchase if that was the amount of investment. But something at $100,000, totally different ballgame, right? So it takes courage and conviction, to courage and clarity, and sometimes we've got to give ourselves that time to say not yet. And even to say, I don't know. Many people are asking me, what am I going to do next year? And the honest to goodness truth is, I don't know. I do know I will still lead my practice. I do know that I will still be very, very involved in being available to my team because they're important to me and I'm invested in the work that they do. But beyond that, I actually really don't know. I don't know. And so it's okay to say not yet. Now the third one, this is probably where the fire in the belly is going to come to. It takes courage, clarity, and conviction to say not ever. Not ever, not on my watch, not if I can help it, not in this reality, buddy. Uh, the story behind this is I've been engaged in a situation where I was actually really impressed by the way the person who was handling the situation was handling it, because they were clearly being very protective and being an advocate and saying, no way, this is not happening, right? And it comes also for me being in this environment where the good folk of Simon Sinek, people, not Simon, but his associate, challenged me that if this is my why, and you come up with a bunch of why statements, and um, some of those statements for myself were a surprise. One of them was for me that it's really, really important that we protect the right of people to say they don't know, right? That the intellectual humility, so respect and humility, they are important values for me, particularly intellectual humility. I think it's a top value for me. Just because you can, just because you know, just because you have the capacity doesn't mean that you have to do it, nor do you have to, um, you know, impose it on other people. So it's a high value for me. It's it's the sort of people I like to work with. And so the person who is taking me through this process, well, now that you've identified it, Valerie, there is not a situation where you can back down from not protecting people's right to say I don't know, or that they have a different view. Like, that's a little confronting. Never. I can never back away. Says you can never back away, because this is an all or nothing statement. Your why statements are all or nothing. If you truly believe that this is your purpose and this is your place to hold the space and hold the line of saying, not ever, not yet, we don't put people down, we don't, you know, we don't rain on their ideas, we don't criticize other disciplines, we don't think that we know better than other people. When if you strongly believe that that is important for X, Y, and Z reasons, you will never be able, and you should never walk away from the opportunity to stand up against that. Then I wanted to retract my why statement because that's just a little scary. Never, come on, never. I seriously wanted to retract that why statement. How can you do that? You can't retract the why statement. The way that they do it, it comes from really mining through all of this rich history and information about yourself to that is your why statement, or one of, for me anyway. So I therefore realized that when I was seeing this in motion this week, how much comfort and joy and admiration and security I got from being able to see other people basically saying no, not ever. So, that takes a great degree of conviction. You have to know what you stand for. And sometimes I think in this day and age, we don't know what we stand for, and we're afraid to figure out what we stand for. Um, we, we want to be able to say that there are some things that are non-negotiable. There are some things that are so critically important to us that it takes courage, it takes clarity, and it takes conviction. And find people who will stand with you and not just leave you and you're like, oh my gosh, where'd they all go? They dissolved and disappeared into the shadows the minute I made this stand. Find people whom you know will stand with you. Test it out. Don't assume that people are seeing the same things that you are seeing. Communicate, communicate, communicate. So, yes, the different levels of no. And when you see it in action with other people, it might make us feel uncomfortable. However, done right with grace and with a degree of maturity, always with maturity, there might be some very good reasons for what's going on underneath the no statements. Love to know your thoughts.